I'm going to be honest with you guys. Here at Chat Sports, we have multiple NFL channels, and it is a race to 10,000 subscribers between the Cleveland Browns Report and New York Giants Now, hosted by yours truly. And I don't want to lose. We already lose enough as Giants fans, but losing to the Browns just hits a little bit different. So help me get to 10,000 subscribers before the Cleveland Browns Report. Hit that big red button and also get free daily videos on the latest Giants news and rumors. In today's show, we're going to take a look at Giants training camp as we are less than 2 weeks away from camp being kicked off. We got some position battles that I think will be interesting to watch once camp opens up. But first, I want to give a shout out to today's presenting sponsor, Aura, an all-in-one digital safety tool that will help you stay protected online against the fraudsters and the hackers. We'll tell you more about them later on in the show, but you can get started with a 14-day free trial at aura.com/chatsports. Giants training camp is less than 14 days away. The rookies will report to camp July 19th, and the vets will show up a week later, July 26th. The Giants, they have 12 practices over an 18-day stretch, and this is going to be key for a lot of people trying to make that 53-man roster. I think in order of how important it goes, I think preseason and then training camp are most important for players that are trying to get off of that roster bubble spot. And in today's show, we're going to look at 5 position battles that I think are going to be very important as the Giants try to trim down from 90 to 53 people on the roster. But before I give you my 5 biggest training camp battles to watch, I want to hear from you in the comments section. In your opinion, what is the biggest training camp battle? Is it for the starting tight end, wide receiver 3, the backup outside corner, strong safety, middle linebacker, the third edge rusher, the center, the left guard? Let me know the biggest training camp battle in the comments section right now. I think the biggest one is Ricky Seals-Jones versus Daniel Bellinger, the rookie. Ricky Seals-Jones was signed in NFL free agency to a 1-year veteran minimum deal by Joe Schoen and the New York Giants, and Daniel Bellinger was selected in the 4th round of the NFL draft. But we've already got kind of an update and a look at what's going to happen, because Daniel Bellinger, he was running with the ones in OTAs and minicamps this summer. Although, I will admit, Brian Daboll calls it a rep chart and not a depth chart. And what does that mean? He said, the players that you're seeing play the most in the summer are the ones we want to see the most reps from. So that makes sense. You want to see the rookies get the most reps. But why would you not want to see Ricky Seals-Jones, someone that's coming over in their first season from the Giants, get the most reps? I think that's interesting. But when you look at the Giants tight end depth chart, Daniel Bellinger, Ricky Seals-Jones, I have him as tight end 1A and tight end 1B. Then I have Jordan Akins at tight end 3. I think Austin Allen and Chris Miriak ultimately get cut. And it comes down to having 3 tight ends on the roster. Bellinger, Seals-Jones, Aiken. I could see Austin Allen making the roster, but I think those 3 guys pictured on screen are all locks to eventually make this roster. Bellinger wasn't asked to do a lot in college. And Ricky Seals-Jones really hasn't done a lot in his NFL career. He's been on multiple teams, spent his first 2 years of his career with Arizona Cardinals, having just less than 50 receptions and 4 touchdowns and 25 games played. Then he played 1 season with the Cleveland Browns. In 14 games, he had 14 receptions and 4 touchdowns. He can score in the red zone, as he did last year against the Giants on Thursday Night Football when Darius Slayton dropped the game winner. He has potential. He has the skills. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of Sealy, Texas. Played quarterback, transitioned to wide receiver when he went to Texas A&M, and then transitioned to tight end. He has more true, raw receiving skills, in my opinion, than Daniel Bellinger, but everything we've seen, heard, and known is that Bellinger has the fast track to be the starter. So I want to ask you, if you had to predict it today, pick a starter for week 1 of the Giants' 2022 NFL season. Rub your crystal ball, be a genie, let me know. Type RS for Ricky Seals-Jones or DB for Daniel Bellinger. The second biggest position battle to watch is for the starting left guard spot. And that's going to be Shane Lemieux versus Josh Ezeudu. I also think Max Garcia, the free agent interior offensive lineman, the Giants signed from the Arizona Cardinals in free agency, will be competing as well as Ben Bredesen for that left guard spot. That'll be a position battle to closely monitor. We're going to break that down in further detail in a second. But first, I want to tell you more about Aura. We told you about them off the top of today's show, and let's break them down more. You do more online now than ever, and Aura does more to keep you safe. Get started with a 14-day free trial at aura.com/chatsports. Shop, bank, and work online more safely and privately, because you don't want to have your debit card, your credit card, your identity stolen. None of that. It sucks. It happened to me, and I'm making sure it doesn't happen anymore by getting hooked up with Aura. A 14-day free trial. No reason not to get started. Go to aura.com/chatsports and get hooked up today. When you take a look at this Giants offensive line, I have Lemieux penciled in right now as the starting left guard. He was the Giants' starting left guard to start last season, had that nasty injury where he missed the rest of the season. But we do know, and if you're subscribed, you know this as well, that Brian Daboll was scouting Shane Lemieux very heavily when he was entering the NFL draft out of Oregon. He told him that he wanted him to play for the Buffalo Bills. It didn't happen. He went to the Giants, and he said, that being Shane Lemieux, that Daboll stayed close contact, in-town contact with him. They have a good relationship, and that's why I ultimately think Shane Lemieux wins the job over a guy like Joshua Ezeudu. I'm hoping down the line, maybe halfway through the season or next season, Ezeudu is the starter, because when you spend a top 100 pick on an interior offensive lineman or a top 100 pick in general on a player, you want them starting on your team within the first year or two while they're in the system. I'm hoping that's the case with Ezeudu, but week one, if I had to predict it today, I think Shane Lemieux wins the job in training camp, in preseason, and starts week one. Cornerback number 3. Not cornerback 3 as in the slot. I'm talking the backup outside corner to Adoree Jackson and Aaron Robinson. I think Rodarius Williams and Maurice Canady are going to be fighting it out to see who is going to be that backup outside corner. Because when you look at this depth chart, I think it's pretty safe to say that Adoree Jackson and Aaron Robinson are going to be your starting outside corners. Then I also think it's going to be a little bit of a competition between Darnay Holmes and Cordell Flott. But it's going to be Maurice Canady and Rodarius Williams battling it out in training camp as well as preseason to cement themselves as the backup outside corner in this defense. It's going to come down to what they do in training camp. Are they going to be able to show that they're able to pick up the playbook? Rodarius Williams is still a really young player, entering year 2. Maurice Canady, he's popped around the NFL for a couple of years. He's played under Wink Martindale before. So I would not be surprised if week 1 the backup outside corner was Canady. But as a fan of this team and hoping they get better every single game, I think it's better to put Rodarius Williams in that spot. Had some experience last year as a starter, is liked in this locker room by the vets like Adoree Jackson. And I just think that a guy like Rodarius Williams helps you understand more what you have on this team in the depth chart. Because if you don't ever play the young guys, you don't ever develop them, you don't know what kind of depth you're going to have. And playing Williams, I think will give you a better idea of what you have in the defensive backfield at that cornerback spot, especially on the outside. I think Rodarius Williams wins the job, but I want to hear from you. Who do you want the Giants' third outside cornerback to be? Do you want it to be Rodarius Williams, Maurice Canady? Do you want to see the rookie Cordell Flott slide to the outside? I think it may be a couple of years before he's an outside corner. I think he's going to get burned this year as a rookie in the slot, but I want to hear from you right now. Let me know who you want to be the third outside corner. Wide receiver 4 is the next biggest training camp battle to watch, in my opinion. That's going to be first Wan'Dale Robinson, the rookie wide receiver, the second-round draft pick out of Kentucky, and Darius Slayton. And it's going to come down to those two guys, and if Slayton doesn't win that job, I don't think he makes this team. It's that simple. When you look at this depth chart, we know Golladay, Shepard, Toney, that's your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 3. The wide receiver 4 is going to come between Robinson and Slayton. Robinson has impressed the coaches so far. Daboll has talked about him. Daniel Jones has talked about him. He hasn't missed a practice. He's young. He was drafted by this regime. I think he has the inside track to win that job. But Darius Slayton has proven in the NFL that he can get it done before. I'm not the biggest fan of Slayton, but I can't argue that he wasn't great as a rookie after being a 5th-round pick out of Auburn. He stepped into that starting role and had 48 grabs for 740 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 drops. But it was after that he kind of fell off a little bit. 12 drops the next 2 seasons, less than 80 grabs, just over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns in the next 29 games played. My prediction, and it's not because I don't like him, it's because I'm paying attention. I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm listening to how Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen talk about these guys. Darius Slayton is probably going to get cut. And it sucks because he's still a young player. He has some upside. He's fast. He can be a deep threat on the outside. But I think that the Giants really like Richie James. Brian Daboll has talked about him. And we know that they like C.J. Board, the special team specialist. They're going to keep 6 wide receivers. And I think Slayton is going to end up as wide receiver 7. Last one on today's show, running back 3, Antonio Williams versus Gary Brightwell versus Jashaun Corbin. I could see the Giants keeping 4 running backs on this roster, but I would not be surprised if they keep just 3. I think we all know that Saquon Barkley and Matt Breida are locks to make this roster as RB1 and RB2. And then I think Brightwell, Corbin, and Williams are going to battle it out to be that 3rd running back. I like what the Giants running back group has right now. We love Saquon Barkley, want to see him play all 17 games. Breida is a speed demon that's going to be on the field at times with Saquon Barkley. But Brightwell, Corbin, and Williams, they're all going to be competing in training camp and preseason to be that 3rd back. Could they keep 4? I could see so. But I will say this, of Corbin, Brightwell, and Williams, one of them intrigues me the most, and that's Jashaun Corbin, the undrafted free agent out of Florida State. He reminds me a little bit, he's a little bit taller, he's about 5'11" compared to Ahmad Bradshaw, who's 5'9". They just run with that nastiness. They like to stick their foot in the ground and get north and south. They have agility there to be an elite back, and I think Corbin has that, as well as he provides a little bit more special teams value than a guy like Antonio Williams. Gary Brightwell played on special teams for a large part of his rookie season, so he brings that as well. But Corbin, he can return punts, he can return kicks, and I think he's a little bit better out of the backfield as a receiving back than Gary Brightwell. But I'll ask you guys this question before we jet on out of here of today's segment. Who will be RB3 for the New York Football Giants? Type JC for the undrafted rook and Jashaun Corbin. Type GB for Gary Brightwell or AW for Antonio Williams. I want to hear all of you in the comment section right now.